and thank you for being here with us at this roundtable real estate tokenization on the Blockchain HEC Zoom. I'm David Servet, founder and president of Blockchain at HEC, created in 2017 to share knowledge on the Web3, blockchain and crypto economy and connect the ecosystems. So I'm also very happy to introduce you to Nancy Kang, who will co-moderate this session with me. She's in M1, so the first year of the management program of HEC Paris, and Yale Master in Management and Global Business. And she's part actually of the core team of Blockchain at HEC. So first of all, I'd like to thank you all our prime sponsors like Stake Capital Group and PwC, as well as our partners HEC Alumni and HEC Paris, and all the 90 speakers, plus 90 speakers and company who have actually already come to shed some light on the world of Web3. So thank you thank you all. And I remind you that we have actually 2 to 3 conferences, webinars, or physical events a week. The next will be on the 17th of November, a webinar discussion with VCs in Web3. So stay tuned by following our LinkedIn page, website, and our Discord. We will share actually the links in the chat, where you also have the possibility to raise your questions. So you can send us also your feedback, or should you need more information, you can reach out at blockchainhec@gmail.com. So more importantly, we have a big get together in real life, IRL, on December 8th at HEC Alumni House in Paris, in the 8th arrondissement. So in Paris city center. So you will discover at this event the diversity of our members, from builders, investors, business and tech experts, VCs, etc. And I've been told that rockstar speakers will be there, like today also. But yeah, actually on the first come, please register. I strongly invite you to register for all these conferences, which are free, except the physical ones unavailable to everybody. So again, the link will circulate in the chat. To come back to today's session, we are giving the floor to 4 experts to real estate tokenization to talk about this fascinating subject. So where are we in this field? What are the stakes in France, in Europe, internationally? So what are the leaders doing, and how do they see the future? We'll have a series of few questions that we'll ask our guest speakers, followed by a 15-minute Q&A with the audience. So the first question, maybe could you introduce yourself? We start with Jessica, if you want.
Hello everyone. Yes, thank you, David. My name is Jessica Castro-Oudni. I am a lawyer and a director at PwC law firm. I am historically specialized in real estate since I started my career in the French tax authorities, where I worked in a department in charge of the drafting of the finance bill for the real estate part, before joining PwC in the real estate practice. I also took the lead for the metaverse and NFT blockchain topics 5 years ago, a sector that I lead with colleagues specialized in legal, regulatory, accounting, and tax.
Thank you, Jessica. Thanks a lot. Maybe we can switch to, jump into the floor is yours, Jean-Marc. Thank you.
Hi, nice to meet you all. My name is Jean-Marc Jacobson. I'm the co-founder of RealT, known as Real Token Inc. My brother and I co-founded Real Tokening in 2019. Originally, we come from the real estate world in Canada and in the US, where we developed a real estate fund, which we sold in late 2007. In 2011, we discovered blockchain. We became industrial miners in the US around 2012 and 13, graphic cards at the time. 2013, we founded the first Bitcoin embassy in the world in Montreal. And we've been active ever since, always wanting to join both blockchain and real estate, our 2 passions. That happened with RealT in 2019, where finally the technology and the law, the legals and compliance made it possible to tokenize real estate.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Please, Frédéric, if you want.
Yes, thank you. So thank you first, David, for the organization of the event. And thank you all, Jean-Marc, for being Charles and Jessica. It's a pleasure to introduce you Equisafe. So with Bilal and Maxime, we created Equisafe in 2019 in order to allow the tokenization of real estate. So I'm a former lawyer specialized in merger and acquisitions in real estate. And my two partners had their specialty in entrepreneurship and economy. And so our goal was to allow tokenization through France and Europe and let people buy part of an asset, a real estate. Step by step, realized the difficulties that we had to overcome. And so today we shifted to a model driven by legal legal work, like corporate creation and the management of SPVs. And we enable on our platform the whole process for a company, including fundraising, dividends, any kind of yield, and the end of the company. So our whole solution is based on blockchain and on the Tezos infrastructure. We work a lot with Tezos and Pirates Labs, which is another company driven by tokenizing any kind of assets. And so Equisafe has now raised more than 100 million on the platform, and we are focusing on the next step on our discussion for today, how we can go further in the tokenization process.
Thank you, Frédéric. Charles, please.
Yes, thank you very much for hosting us, and we're glad to be here. So basically, I'm Charles. I'm 30 years old, born and raised in Paris. I've been graduated from of finance from Dauphine, and I decided to take a really financial approach to real estate. So that led me to work at Rothschild in a merger and acquisition, and then to integrate Tikeo Capital, which is an investment fund doing cross-border and cross-asset acquisition on kind of the most complex deal you can find, share deal, asset deal, whatever you want, for 3 years. So I invested for more like around 1 billion euro of acquisition. But after all these 15 years of real estate experience, like what I had witnessed is that the industry didn't really change. It kind of really moved slowly. So I wanted a mission to go like that's fuel my entrepreneur journey. So I started with the first company, which was Upfund, trying to improve the way investment funds operate and manage the data. And after that, I'm now working on Konkrete, which is a decentralized launchpad to bring real estate on chain. Aside that, I'm doing research on this subject of real-world asset tokenization with Scleros for a few months. So that's the idea. And I'm very happy to be here and to discuss this interesting topic and challenging one also.
Thank you very much, Charles. Thank you all for your introduction. So I suggest we start with our first questions to briefly introduce the context and give us a rough definitions of what we'll be talking about tonight. So please, Jean-Marc, could you explain us in simple terms what is a token and particularly a token in real estate?
Absolutely. So a token, first and foremost, is a store of value. It was designed as such. It was designed as a currency. The first token that ever existed was Bitcoin. It was created in 2008. It's not a coincidence. It was after the crisis when a group of person said, there's another way to think money today. And he invented blockchain, where there's a store of value, a token that exists on a register. That register is a ledger, is decentralized. So it's commonly known as a blockchain. That was the invention. That store of value is a currency. It's a unit of currency. That was the origin of the first token. So the idea at first was 1 Bitcoin equals $1 or a value. That was the purpose of the first blockchain. Came other blockchains, since it was open source, and all had the same objective of creating money. So cryptocurrencies, everybody has heard that term. Next came Ethereum. Ethereum allowed smart contracts to exist on blockchain. And all of a sudden, you could create tokens that were other things, something different than a currency. You could assign it, it could represent an asset, or it could even be an asset. We speak about security tokens, utility tokens, etc. So all of a sudden, there was this possibility of creating tokens that had different function than a currency and still retained the advantages of the blockchain. In other words, the currency is just an application of a blockchain and not necessarily the most interesting one. That was the discovery and what Ethereum allowed everybody to do. At RealT, what we did is we decided to say, great, we have this tokenization possibility now, so let's assign it to real estate. Today, anywhere in the world, it is impossible to directly tokenize a property on the land registry. It's impossible. You can't register a token. What you can do is tokenize a company that owns a property. So in other words, you tokenize the shares of a company that owns a property. Now, this model works well in the US, and there are some legal precedents. It doesn't work all that well in France. We'll speak about that later. So your token, all of a sudden, is a share of a company that owns one property. So by buying that token at $50, you actually participate in the ownership of a property indirectly through a C Corp or an LLC, but you are owner. You can, and right now people are tokenizing real world assets, gold, art, the precious metals, income, yields, you name it. It's happening all over the place. So the idea of the token was for it to remain as much as possible a store of value, meaning fungible, exchangeable, fractionable, and all the four main parameters that describe a token. NFTs come into play today. A lot of people speak about NFTs. NFTs are just like any other regular token. There's no difference. The only thing that makes it different is that they're numbered. And since they have a unique ID, they cannot be fungible together, and they cannot be fractionalized. So you take away the fungibility, which is normally a characteristic of a token, but you have something that is more, that wants to be unique. Let me give you a very good example. Bitcoin wanted to be a currency. So it created a fungible token on the ERC20. An NFT is another type of ERC. And all it does is it says it's numbered. If you want to tokenize diamonds, you can, but a diamond is not fungible. It's not because, first of all, a diamond is not equal to another diamond, even if they're 1 carat each. They're not. You have the cut, the color, the clarity. And it's not because you have a 10 carat token, a 10 carat diamond, that you can split it in 10 1 carat diamonds. They are not fungible. NFTs in that case for 1 diamond applies beautifully. So these are the difference between tokens, NFTs, and cryptocurrencies in simple words. And they all exist on the blockchain, which is just a decentralized ledger.
Thank you, Jean-Marc.
Voilà.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. So what's next? We want to ask Jessica, how would you describe to a newbie the legal implications of real estate tokenization in France?
Yes, sure. So just to have a little bit context in simple terms, the tokenization of real estate is a way to allow some investors who are not those traditionally present in the real estate sector to invest in this sector. So it is really the main idea, I will say. And this will consist from a legal standpoint to divide real estate assets, mainly in the tokenization of real estate shares of a company holding the asset into tokens, and offering it on the primary market to investors who will, in principle, hold a part of the property indirectly of this asset and receive the benefits. In France, there is no real legal framework for this tokenization of building, but we have the existing rules for real estate that apply for the real estate without the tokenization, and may present a strong constraint for the tokenization of real estate. For example, if we speak about the notary, we will not be able to free ourselves from this third party in the framework of the real estate tokenization, whatever the chosen structure, because you need the real estate when the company will acquire the real estate, and we cannot do anything without the notary in France. So it is really a constraint with regard to the tokenization, and we cannot avoid it. Moreover, if we structure the tokenization via a company, we have to be careful with the nature of the chosen company. All the securities of the French companies are not a priori tokenizable, and in particular with regard to specialized real estate companies, because we have in France some real estate companies which are listed as REITs, for example, or unlisted as OPCI, we call it OPCI or CPI. All these subjects are as many points to be taken into account when we are launching out in tokenization of building. And what we see finally, for example, according to the legal qualification of the token, we can have a legal qualification of the token being a security token, for example, in France. And this security token could be assimilated to titles or shares of a real estate company being land rich. And you have a specific tax rule. We have specific tax rule which could apply, for example, stamp duties on the sale of the token, which could represent 5% of the value of the tokens sold. So we have to be really careful of all the rules that could apply around the tokenization, and this rule could constitute a slowdown to the tokenization of real estate in France.
If I may jump back on that, indeed, the registration rights, mutation rights, I don't know how you call them, droit d'enregistrement, droit de mutation. Yeah. So basically, it's 5% in the case of a real estate company, 1% if it's not. But what is important, because you might say, okay, well, let's pay the 5% and let's transact. It kills the liquidity a little bit. But we believe what we found out is that the main problem was that the minimum amount is 25 euros in France. So that means if you want to sell a token, the purpose of tokenization, one of the many purposes is fractionalization as well, which means you shatter the barrier to entry to take advantage of the real estate market or real estate investments. So let's say that you have your token at $10 to be able, and you can partake in the real estate investment at $10. But if you need to sell, when you sell it to somebody else, you have to pay $25 or euros, there's a problem here. And that kills the structure of direct ownership in France. Each country, and RealT sells its token in 154 countries. So we've studied a lot of various countries to see how we could tokenize things that were other than US real estate. I can tell you that each country has its own specificities and its own way of protecting nationally their real estate. So in France, it's the droit de mutation. Then in other places, you have foreigners are forbidden up to a certain, past a certain percentage, etc. So the challenges are still there.
Thank you for the explanations, Jean-Marc and Jessica. Maybe we can start also the roundtable with a simple question for each speaker. Could you please share how you created your project and what were your biggest challenges? And who wants to start answering, knowing that maybe Jessica and Jean-Marc have already talked not about this subject particularly, but yeah, if we want, maybe Frédéric or
yes.
Charles.
Yeah, I will. So I'll take the floor. So for us, as we try to focus on tokenization of the real assets, we faced the difficulties that mentioned Jessica, Jean-Marc. So we try to go to the notary and so really tokenize the asset and what were the limitations, and there are technical limitations, as for instance, so the registre de publicité foncière, the publication ledger for real estate, you cannot add more than 50% on an asset. So they are not designed to get so many people that we have on blockchain. So technically, that would require an update on this also. So then we focused on companies and just digitalize the share ledgers of companies. That's what we do basically. We went from a paper-based share ledger that we had before 2017 in France, and the Sapin 2 law enabled us in France to have this ledger on a digital basis afterwards. So this law with the ordinance of 2019 allowed us to have a legal basis of having securities on blockchain. And that was the main advance that we had in France. That was one of the reasons that we wanted to be implemented in France. Then we wanted to create simply the tokens onto blockchain. So once you create the shares on blockchain, what you want to do is just allow and ease the process of transfer of shares. So what were the main hindrance of transferring shares? You have the tax part. So how much does it cost to transfer a share? So it's you have two type of organization of companies in France, those that are with the corporate tax, and those that are with the non-corporate, the impôt sur le revenu. So for the one for corporate tax, you need to pay 0.1% or the minimum 25 euros. So it's something that would hinder the process of transfer, and what we see onto decentralized exchange, where you have a lot of transfer of assets. But still, it's very interesting to have this, like, if people could simply, like during a party, just exchange their shares with other people, that would be one of the main features. Even if it's for non-listed companies, there have been so many companies, so many startups that have been created. We wanted to go through this way, so tackling a bit more easily the secondary market, which is what promotes the blockchain. With blockchain, you have a secondary market really accessible with no cost compared to a regulated market, where it costs a lot to have all the intermediaries that regulate this kind of markets. And then we went through the AMF, the French regulator for digital financial services, and they disallow the use of decentralized exchange. So it was in 2021, and 2021, and then they added a publication on what was the limit between you have secondary market for non regulated companies with what they call tableau d'affichage. So we created a tableau d'affichage on Equisafe. So a tableau d'affichage is only a board where you can express those who want to sell and those who want to buy, but you cannot match them. So it's far from what blockchain allows. And this is the position today of the AMF and the European regulator on financial services. And so our next step is to go further in this direction. And there's a new sandbox that would allow going further in this. Sorry, I spoke a lot.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to
Really
bounce back
interesting.
on it because in the US, it was a little bit easier at first. Basically, in 2018, there was a precedent, a law that allowed, that recognized a shareholder of an, well, actually, it's not a share because it's an LLC. So it's a member of an LLC that had a token that represented his membership. And it was recognized as actual membership, the token. That allowed for the tokenization of LLCs, and therefore afterwards the tokenization of C Corps. However, the problem was the same, Frédéric. We had to make sure that every moment we knew who had what legally, a register. Another register on blockchain, they don't care. The SEC analysts, they don't want that. They want a real register at every moment who owns what. The minute you go into secondary market, which makes the blockchain so powerful, you lose that traceability. So at RealT, we had to develop more technology, which we called whitelisting. So the KYC, the whitelisting, afterwards came as a secondary thing, which allowed token holders to be identified throughout the entire chain of transactions. And every day, we have to print the report of who owns what for all properties, archive them, and have them ready for inspection. So, and that's just one of the, I would say, light requirements. In France, you have more. But in other countries, you have different ones.
No, maybe like the question was, I'm going to answer it a different way, like how we started with this.
Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, you anticipated a bit about on the next question, which was a bit of technicity about how you tokenize, etc. So very interesting, Frédéric and Jean-Marc. But yeah, maybe if for the neophytes, maybe come back to finally the what is passionating, all these entrepreneurs, like the leaders you are today around the table. Why do we want to tokenize real estate finally? What is yeah.
No, but like, yeah, how we started it, because I told you, like, we did a first startup about like changing the way people invest in real estate, more on the fund side, on the institutional side. And after that, we were like, okay, but it's cool, but it doesn't have a big impact around us. So let's target the retail. And aside this, we're investing in crypto with my friends or stuff, and actually losing quite a lot of money on the DeFi projects. We know, I don't want to tell about them, but there were quite a few. And we're like, okay, dude, like, come on, this, like, on this side of real estate, we bring like this yield, which is clear, sustainable. And on this side, we have like the crypto market, which is volatile, which is full of shitcoins and scams, and only like the yields served were like inflationary. So it was about like getting in and getting out fast, and before the other realize it. So we're like, there's a problem in this, and that cannot last long. So we started to think of bringing actually real estate into DeFi, bringing the yield of real estate, saying to crypto users, like, okay, like, it's good to play. We love to play. It's like our DNA, we are like gamblers a bit, but we don't want to be 100% gambler. We need to diversify our portfolio and say, okay, let's take 20% of your portfolio and try to put it on a safe investment. So at that time, at the beginning, there was UST. You can stack at 20% on core. So people were like, okay, what's the point of your real estate shit, And then we know what happened and the crash, and I think it educated the market about looking for the origin of the yield. Don't the crypto user get to know, like, okay, the yield, if there's a big IPY, there's something wrong behind it, or you have to be careful. So with this education of the market, I think a new narrative came with what we call real yield, you know, with all the protocols tackling this in different way. But our main focus with Konkrete is to say, okay, you can, with our token, diversify your portfolio, hedge against volatility, and also get a sustainable yield, which won't be like crazy, like as you had before, but it will be safe and sustainable.
It will be based on real estate, or it will be based on other assets?
It will be based on real estate, yes.
Yeah.
But the underlying asset will be real estate, will be concrete.
Exactly, will be concrete. That's why we chose. It's not about
have you done a transaction yet?
Yeah, we tokenized the first asset in France. It was in Rennes, and we only opened it to the private list. And the idea, yeah, and the idea was open. So we have been, to give you about the stage we are, we have been working for the legal space for 5 months with 2 lawyer practices. So we have done this because I think, as Jean-Marc and Frédéric and Jessica would say, the legal framework is very hard to tackle. So that was our main challenge. And now we are deploying on the next months to open to the public. So yes, that's a bit. I will go further on the technical side of this later if you want. So, but I just wanted to explain you how comes, you know, like we were in a day like wanted to bring this real estate into DeFi, which are 2 different worlds, you know, but we think that they can be really complementary and they can bring to each other a lot.
Yeah, and that's actually brings us to the next question, which is, you know, how to manage real estate tokenization within DeFi. How did you handle it? Because this is the tricky part. We discussed it a bit in the preparation talk with all of you. And yeah, if you, I don't know, who wants to start off with this question?
I can go on it because like you're just to maybe to push and finish on this. It's like, as you explained it very well, Jean-Marc and Jessica and Frédéric, like all the complexity to tokenize the ownership of the asset. Okay, and you know this subject of real estate blockchain, everybody's speaking about it for a few years. You know, it's not new. Even in 2016, like, you know, we're like, oh guys, come on, this real estate is blockchain. We can put it on blockchain and make it fractionable and make it liquid. Yoo-hoo, you know. So like there was this kind of, you know, like long cycle topic about this, and yet it was very hard to tackle. And the first to do this was, I think, Equisafe and also RealT. You did both in 2019 by building this LLC above the real estate asset, and then tokenizing this share of LLC, which is very smart also, and brings a lot, I think. With the approach of Konkrete is to say, okay, that's one value proposition. Another one is to say, okay, guys, what we want to give to a user, to the Konkrete user, is a yield related to the asset. So what we're offering is not the ownership of the asset, because when you buy, for example, when I invest in real estate, I don't care about having the title. What I want is a safe cash flow, a safe income.
Okay.
So that's what we are trying to say. That's our value proposition. It's like we are getting away from the ownership of the asset, nor the LLC, but giving you the ownership of the yield, saying that when you buy a real estate token on Konkrete, you get a yield correlated to a real estate asset.
Okay.
So
okay, that's interesting. So you decorrelate ownership and you just tokenize the yield. As I said, some people do that on other assets, they tokenize yields. And the particularity of Konkrete is that the yield that you generate for your tokens is generated from real estate assets.
Yes, exactly.
That are owned, and the real estate assets are owned by your holding.
Exactly.
So basically you give yield on your real estate to token holders. I understand. Exactly. Smart. Okay, interesting. I believe that ownership or indirect ownership or things is important to reassure. The issue is what? The issue is what happens if RealT goes bankrupt. Let's say that Remy and I co-founded RealT with my brother Remy, by the way, that's why. So let's say that Remy and I decide to tokenize real estate on the moon or on Mars, since Mars is so key. And we disappear, we close RealT. What happens to the assets? What happens to the token holders? In our case, the token holders have their assets. Oh yes, there's an administrative period of 3 months for the liquidator to change ownership or to make sure, but it's a corporate process that has been existing for centuries now, and it's a well-oiled machine. So
Yeah.
the owner has his assets in his wallet and is absolutely not dependent on the existence of RealT. And that, I believe, is a very strong value proposition. And the integration in DeFi is what is today the biggest challenge. At RealT, we created what we call the RMM, which is a lending platform, which allows you to take your token to ownership, stake it on the platform, and borrow stable coins, so dollars against it, to go buy other tokens. And the advantage is what? Is that it's done 3 clicks. So basically, there's no file to give to the bank. There's no approval process. There's nothing. It's not on your word or your honor or your assets. It's just on the token itself. You mortgage, quote unquote, the token, not the real estate, your token, so just part of the real estate. And you can go borrow stable coins to go and buy more tokens. You do it click, click, click and you create a loop until you've tokenized you've leveraged all of your real estate tokens. And that is something that was never possible before. That's what we speak about when we speak about the power of DeFi and why is it such a hot topic and everybody wants to jump on it. It's because of this power. Now, the regulatory framework is what is indeed slowing down the process worldwide, in the US as well as France and other countries. So they're progressing slowly, but they are progressing. They are making efforts.
Definitely, I hope it's definitely in the good direction. And the first point you tackled was very interesting because it concerns the crypto investor in whatever real estate token we're producing. It's like, okay, dude, what happened if Jean-Marc and Remy leave? What happened if Charles and Ava go somewhere? And basically, the thing is, don't forget, we're not bringing any big innovation to the world. We're taking what's working in institutional real estate fund and making it possible in crypto fund. Basically, in an institutional real estate fund, when somebody invests in this, and imagine the manager die, okay? You have insurance saying okay, you can then give the management to an insurance company, AXA, handling the term of the management, and then repaying the investor. So this is, I think it's not about the qualification of the token. It's more about the way you do the management and the insurance you put on your investment, if I may say.
Yeah. Well,
one of the things, so you're talking about the revenue-based token, so as an alternative to the security token itself. What we've seen as we try to go in this direction is that the legal regime is not really safe for the moment, especially for the taxation. Is it real estate revenue or it's revenue from a share? How to qualify it is one of the things that wasn't really obvious for us. As there are some companies that qualify it as royalties, but the French system does not recognize this kind of revenue. And so it was, well, we felt it was quite unsafe for our investors to let them invest in a system that then we had to wait for a decision from the administration. So maybe, well, asking for a tax decision to make sure the qualification. But what's interesting is that with what you're doing, Charles, is from a safety that was taken by the banks at their origins, buying the rents of a building was something that we introduced in our M&A processes. We transferred it from a safety to a contract, to a core contract, which is now the goal of the contract is to transfer the rents. One of the things is, do you transfer the rents, or what kind of contract does it involve? Like, what kind of ownership do I have? And in terms of liabilities to the companies when I buy your revenue-based token?
Frédéric, many thanks for this question. Very interesting one. And I think you tackle some very important issues. So as you know, many things. First, France has a very as you say, strict framework, So and which is very good actually for the users. So you cannot do whatever you want. The IMF is really looking to it very seriously. You know, there's been a recent scandal on a royalties project in the Web 2. I don't want to give you names, but like you know what I'm speaking about. So they have the eye on it, so which is very good. So our postulat or our framework is to say we're working with the regulation. Actually, we are not doing something. The idea is to be hands-on with them, to build something that is really working with the French and also the European framework, since you know they have been consolidating at the European framework, which is make it much easier for any startup wanting to build something in Europe now. And as you say, like the idea is to tokenize the revenue, the yield coming from the asset, and to avoid you cannot avoid the tax. You know, that's something inherent to thing. And you know, so many subjects about taxing crypto. I think when you make money, it's good to be taxed. You know, it's good to pay taxes, and it's also a proof that you made money. So our user will pay tax, of course, but as long as they're making money, and that's the idea.
Of course, but you see.
Sorry.
No, please. I just wanted to say that when I invest in real estate, I invest for the yield. I mean, I'm a very strong proponent in yield for sure. But also invest for the capitalization long-term, for the value proposition every year or after 10 years. When we created our real estate fund, for 10 years, we didn't lift our nose. We just worked, grew it, my brother and I. And after 10 years, the bank called us to refinance and we were like, whoa, nice. And that's what we wanted to share. We believe that yield is important, but there's also a patrimonial value to real estate. Sometimes yield is not good, but the holding of the property is worthwhile over time. And tokenizing ownership in an indirect or direct way brings that and allows you to have a diversification of your investments and your tokens, therefore, that is important.
No, but
Indeed.
Sorry, go ahead, Charles.
No, but like very interesting. Like if we just like take, because like if we take just real estate, because it's very simple, real estate we can say there are many like investment strategy. Like you know, like if you're a user, if you're investing in real world, you can invest in let's say two kind of strategies. The first one is saying, okay, I want to get a yield. So basically, you buy an asset in the France area, which is cheap, you know, on the price and the enterprise, and he gives you a good rental income, so you have a good yield basically. But then you don't expect a lot from this capital appreciation.
No, it's not true. It's not true, Charles. You can have both. You can have both. You can have properties that have good yield, and that will appreciate over time. It exists. It exists worldwide. It exists in France as well.
No, wait, yes. Of course you can have it, of course. But when you invest, for example, the best, if you go to any like in the city in France, you know, you're not gonna you're not sometimes expecting the best increase of the prices, but you're just having like a good yield. And you can have another strategy. We say, okay, I'm gonna like buy, for example, in Paris at or like buy more on the like value add proposition strategy, which is like I'm buying low, I'm making refurbishment, and I'm selling high. And that's like another strategy. So you basically in real estate, you have like this kind of two main strategies, and like you can see all over the institutions in real estate, they are not mixing, you know, these strategies. For example, when I was working at Tico, we're like saying to investors, which were like institutional real estate investor, above ticket of 100K, saying, okay, like either you're going like a value strategy.
I don't know. I managed I bought and managed 18,000 units. That's a large portfolio on any standard. I worked with large investment funds, billion-dollar funds. They do both. They do both. They do patrimony, and there's not only two. There's 5 of them. You can do fixer-uppers. You can buy penthouses in Manhattan that really don't need any work. Just buy, hold, and maintain. They don't bring lots of yield, but they have appreciations. You can buy low, renovate, and sell. Real estate is so diverse that you don't have just two proposition.
On your strategy, I'm saying like you can do both. Like many firms do both, and that's good because it allows them to propose 50% IRR and like 5% IRR, and like it's good, you know. The idea is just to be like transparent on a strategy, saying, okay, you know where you get in, and I think that's a very important point that as a platform.
Again, when you tokenize, the idea of a token is that you don't I need to say your strategy. You need to say this token will bring this, and this token will bring that, and you compose your own strategy.
Exactly, yes.
You create your own playlist of investments that conforms to your investment profile.
You become the master of your strategy and of your investment. I totally agree with you. You have to put the power back in the hand of the investor, of the user. That's what Robinhood did like a few years ago. That's what it worked very well. Is saying, okay, guys, I'm 30 years old. Okay, I don't want to put my money in a SCP or in like any other people doing things. I want to be the owner of my strategy. I want to say, okay, I want to invest in Paris. I want to invest in Lisbon. I want to invest in Madrid, whatever. So I'm going to compose my portfolio the way I want, the way I feel, the way I like also. So I totally agree with you. But
through yield.
Through yield, exactly. You just
through yield only. Okay.
Yeah.
So just you mentioned something yesterday, Jean-Marc, which is the protection of the investors. So when you do revenue-based token, I think the investors needs to know that they are protected by contract, whereas when you invest in a company, you are protected by, well, contract, but also company law, which is
SEC,
I think more protective.
Frédéric, big time, and you're right, definitely. Like being difficultly, like I cannot counter agree with you, and that's true, and that's why we're saying, guys, the value proposition is really bringing real estate yield. It's not bringing ownership on other stuff. So I totally agree with you. It's like two different level of security. Yes.
Yeah, and to further my point, I think it's an interesting investment vehicle to have revenue-based token. One of the difficulties that we have is to value this kind of token, because what is the underlying ownership, whether it is rents or not. If these are rents, how can I make sure that the renter, the one who rents the building, will pay me first in case of liquidation? It's something, it is seen as a safety, Jean-Marc. So you can be first to the renter
if
get your payment. So
if there is debt,
but then you have the whole procedure. How do you want to make sure with the judge and the whole insolvency proceedings? But I think it's this token should exist. I mean,
agree.
It's something new, and one of my last and conclusion, one of the risks is that we have players that could create tokens as for companies with no ownership or nothing inside of the contract that would protect the investors. So that is where the AMF should play a role into introducing them into the crowdfunding regime, and to make sure what kind of contract they are, and that should be reviewed by the AMF.
So Frédéric, the pitfalls are even more than that. Sometimes you can even have a token that has something on it, and somebody will create a token with the same name but a different address. That's possible, and people will get confused. The way we've solved it at RealT is we put actually a screenshot of the land registry with the name of the company that owns it. Then we show the tokenization contract of that, the shares of that company, and we show full transparency. There are companies, and French companies, that are coming with a new system of doing that. That's absolutely fantastic, where they actually tokenize the process of certification by the notaries, by all the acteurs assermentés. And they create that token that certifies that everything is proper. And that's a French company that's doing it. And I'm very, very enthusiastic about it, because I believe that that's the next step for verification on real estate.
Which is actually one of the members of Blockchain HEC. And if you come back to the videos we had interviewed in 2022, we can give the name actually, Jean-Marc.
Logion.
The teasing is perfect, and Logion, exactly. Logion with David Schmitz, Stéphanie Flasher, and Elie Auvray. I asked them actually if we could name them during our conversation. So of course we have the authorization, and yeah, thank you, Jean-Marc, for the praise.
It's a really good idea, and that's when I see here in one of the in the comments. Yes, France has a lot of talents. Now, the MiCA law, version 2 wants to tackle DeFi. My only concern is the regulator has a very, can you hear me? I'm hearing some voices in my thing. Okay. The regulator has a very tough job. He needs to protect the investors, and he doesn't want to wake up one morning and say, I'm going to bother everybody. So he has to balance both. My concern, my worry, and that's something which we might be seeing in some countries, not speaking about France, but is that they make the barrier to entry so high to protect the investor that only those that already are huge players will be able to take advantage of DeFi and of other aspects. It's the only concern I have, and I like to believe that it won't happen. So that's the one thing to worry, because it's good to say, well, let's make sure that they have a $200 million fund minimum accessible in case of problems. Well, not everybody has that, you know? So that's one thing. So we'll see how that pans out. And I believe that regulations is what will define the speed at which blockchain and DeFi will be accepted and will grow worldwide, mostly in real estate.
Yeah. Maybe do you want to add something, Jessica, because regarding regulation and this part particularly?
Yes, I had typically a tax point which has been pointed out also by all the other speakers. It is really to know how finally the shareholder or the token holder will be taxed at the end. And it will mainly depend on the company holding the real estate, I will say, because in France, you have typically two kinds of company. You have some company which are opaque ones, and then you have translucent companies. And regarding the nature of the company, you will have different taxation. For the opaque one, you have normally, if you have a security token, a token which could be considered as a security token, the revenue will be more considered as a dividend and taxed as a dividend. And if you have a translucent company, the question of what is taxed at the level of the shareholder could be raised because the translucent company is not taxed at its level. It's the taxation is up to the level of the shareholder. And then according to the qualification also of the token, it is a right to a yield of, or it is a security token. You will have some different qualification. We can consider that it could be a rent, it could be something else, interest. We can have a lot of qualification. So I think that it is also the part which is a little bit tricky, the taxation around the shareholder, the token holder, I will say, alongside the fact to say if we are holding something and we have the property of something or not. But the tax is really also something to be considered. And today, when we discuss, for example, with professional associations in real estate, representing all the sector in real estate, the main point is really the tax. And what they wanted to know and is the information to give to the shareholders or the token holders to know how they will be taxed, in fact. And this is really a key point for them.
And for that, I would really join Charles' opinion in saying that I believe that everybody wants to pay their taxes. Everybody does. That's not the issue. The issue is what you said, Jessica.
But how? Yeah.
What format? And for that, we all want clarity.
Yeah.
And Jessica, as you were saying, it's very interesting because, like, I don't know if our users know about it, but like société opaque et société transparente, like it's a big subject. Like société opaque, ça peut être SAS, SRL, and société transparente will be like SCI. Therefore, like saying like transparent things, like the income goes through the
pass-through entity.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then go directly to the to the shareholder, and therefore you don't tax the entity owning the asset, but the shareholder directly. So it was just maybe because it was very interesting point. That's why I wanted to add this.
And these are part also of consideration that you need every time you go from country to country for regulatory purposes. There are things that you can do with LLCs, beautiful in America. The minute you go out of the US, some jurisdictions don't like LLCs at all. They don't like pass-through entities. They need to have a C Corp, Société à Capitaux. They want it. Otherwise, you're limited. So you have to change everything again.
We feel you have been through all the pain of the world.
Exactly.
You're like, gosh. and I understand it has been a year. Honestly, the subject is such a pain. It's like, and Frédéric more like, you know, like it's even older. So like, I totally understand you. The play is like really, really complicated. And I feel you.
I can say that thank you for understanding it, but what really makes it difficult is what I believe has just been said, is that the law, the regulations are changing. They are evolving, and they're evolving very quickly. Now that's a good thing, because eventually we'll stabilize. But while it's happening, an entrepreneur that wants to invest in that field, he needs to know that what he does today will need to be changed tomorrow somehow. At RealT, we changed 3 times our legal structure already to adapt to various countries and requirements.
And just to give you a detail, perhaps, in France, if you have a société de capitaux, I will say, this company will be taxed normally at its level on the corporate income tax at a rate of 25%. And this is really also a key, I will say, perhaps a key issue in the structuration, because if you have a translucent company, there is no taxation. So we will have the only taxation at the level of the token holder, I will say. So there is also one other point that we can consider in France. We have really some real estate companies dedicated to the real estate, which have a specific tax regime as OPCI, which is the unlisted version of the rates. And basically, these companies are not taxed. And the principle is that they have a certain minimum requirements of distribution. And then the taxation is at the level of the shareholder or the token holder in our case. But it is also something to be considered in the structuration, because otherwise you will have a taxation level, an intermediary taxation level also.
I can summarize what you said by what happened to me about 4 months ago. Finally, we had everything set for tokenization of real estate in France. We have the legals. Yes. We have the technology. Yes. Let's do let's get together with everybody and everything works fine. But then all of a sudden the CPA, l'expert comptable, comes and says, what are you talking about? What is this? Do you realize what taxation means in France? You have the 25% here. You have this, you have that. You structure it this way. You will have the French tax authority inquiring about you, investigate you the minute you file. End of story. Go back to the drawing table. We finally found a way, we believe, to tokenize real estate in France in an elegant way, maybe not as elegant as direct ownership through shareholding, but there is a way which is more complex, but remains still understandable, and we'll be announcing it, I believe, within a month or 2. So, but
amazing teasing again, Jean-Marc.
Amazing,
nice.
Thank you. But
no, very nice. Anyway,
I'm still wait. I said that 3 times. I'm still waiting for the note. Okay, so for the signed note saying yes, go. We'll see.
We got it. But no, very interesting discussion. Thank you very much for these discussions. And we also talked about maybe having a think tank, I would say maybe lobbying group, I don't know, that we would, because this is actually a call to action I'm doing now for people, from neophytes, so really layman people, from some neophytes to expert people. If you're passionate about tokenization in real estate, please join us. We will gather all these interested people for probably doing workshops, and with all entrepreneurs and big institutions also, and companies like PwC, would be very nice to continue this discussion and think of the different innovative ways we could push forward this subject. So we don't know yet the name of this group, but still it is in process. So please, we'll send you an email. We'll gather all the interested people and we'll let you know actually how we'll handle it. So stay tuned. The next question also we would like you to answer would be more about the progress of your company in terms of if we want to, for example, invest in your company. If you what stage of fundraising are you now, and if you are or not fundraising, and what is finally the ambition of development of the company. If you can share it or no, I don't know. But would be interesting because I saw that in the questions we had in the chat. So please, again, who wants to start? I mean, we won't have a lot of time. We still have 20 minutes, but yeah. Okay.
So, you mean investing? You mean investing in the company or in the?
Yeah, I mean,
in the company, in the capital of the company.
Absolutely.
So
first it be opened, and then the second question was what is the strategic roadmap, and finally fundraise or not. Yeah.
So RealT, I'll start. RealT was self-funded by my brother and I entirely from 2019 to today. We didn't open our capital to anybody yet. However, in early this year, February, March this year, we realized that to go to the next level, mostly because of the legals and compliance issues, it would be wise to be really a worldwide actor to open up our capital. So we've started the process. We are very well advanced today, and we will create, when we open up our capital, we will create an SPV that we will tokenize to allow all the community members to participate at a token level, at a $50 level or more if they want to, through that SPV into the capital, along with other funders, investors.
Nice, very nice. About us, we are like we are having a wait list which is open on our website, so konkrete.dao.com. Feel free to register, and we are like putting a new asset on the platform in the coming weeks.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Charles.
For us, so in terms of operation, we are integrating in a bigger group called Pirates Labs, aiming at doing a lot of NFTs into the environment. So it's more now into investing into Pirates Lab, and feel free to contact on Equisafe or on Pirates Labs for further details.
Thank you. Thank you. And finally, a last question, more for the French, environment framework. What about the notary? Do you think they will disappear or not?
Any talk of disintermediation, of all the agents disappearing, of all the notaries disappearing, this is just complete, I'm going to remain polite. It's just not realistic. Okay, it won't happen. Let's be clear. We need somebody to certify that what you buy is actually bought. For that, you need a notary. If you put bullshit in the blockchain, bullshit will come out of the blockchain. End of story. You need certification. The agents, but mind you, it doesn't mean that they won't evolve. The notaries in France are extremely modern, and they have jumped all over the blockchain issue. They are on it, and they're on top of it, and they want to use it.
Absolutely.
So we will see a lot of progress on that. As for the agents, of course, the agents are going to be there. How else can you find or sell? We don't have time. It's a full job. Maybe, though, the nature of their work will evolve. Maybe the way they are paid will evolve. I can imagine a very strong dashboard with regular income. Every morning it ticks by. Based on their recommendations, they have a different kind of an NFT that's linked to their name, which gives them more reputation, which gives them more income. I mean, basically, we can see a lot of, basically the technology today exists to rethink the entire ecosystem in a virtuous way, the entire real estate ecosystem, I mean. But all of the members that exist today will still exist tomorrow, all of them.
Wow.
On top of that, we can add that the notaries are today partners of the French tax administration. So we don't see how to eliminate them in any way. They have
to.
Yeah. They have a role to play on the real estate, and they have to play this role. And they have some links, the strong links with the French tax authority. So they are obviously in the ecosystem and they cannot disappear. I agree with that.
I really believe that the blockchain is going to be a layer on top of the existing system, and both will exist. Both systems, both will coexist forever. But this layer gives more accessibility. It democratizes access to the investment. It makes it more liquid. On RealT, you can buy on Monday, earn your rent through the week, and on Sunday, you're not happy with your token, you sell, no loss, and you keep your income for the week. That's what we mean by the power of blockchain. And that will become more and more standard as the years go by. It's a huge market. Everybody's going to be doing it within 50 years. People are going to say, what? Before they couldn't buy tokens of real estate? How did people invest in real estate then? And you'll be able to buy yield. You'll be able to buy patrimony. You'll be able to choose. And every type of token has a reason to exist.
Amazing perspectives for the tokenization of a real estate. Thank you very much, Jean-Marc. Maybe anyone want to add something to our discussion? We can switch maybe to the questions, but I mean, I think we covered quite well the questions. If you, Nancy, maybe if you want to start a question that we did not really answer, or even the panelists, if you think you want to answer a particular question.
Yes, for me, I was asked a question coming from a student perspective. So, you know, for us, what do you recommend us if we're interested in the field? What is one thing that you think would be nice for us to enter into to this realm?
Come at Konkrete DAO. We are looking for every kind of talent. It can be like marketing, growth, like financial, like even DeFi player. You know, like it's. I think in the crypto and Web3, like even in Piraz or like I think it would say the same. We have so many like resources needed, you know, and there is every talent is more than welcome. And the subject of real estate tokenization is. I do think a big subject that will maybe bring the next bull market. So there's job to be done, and it's a very challenging, I think, field. And every talent, like as a student, you know, you just have to deep dive whatever you like and go for it.
And I will give another advice: start investing young, start buying real estate young, whether it's under the form of tokens. It makes it easy. Be regular. Don't go crazy on the amounts, but do it regularly. Every week, buy a token, it's $50. Wait, have the yield, go through the capital appreciation. I assure you, by the time you're 30 or 40, you'd be surprised by the amount you have. You will be surprised. I can guarantee that. And that's a rule.
Thank you.
Maybe Equisafe, do you want to add on, and also Jessica and Frédéric, if you had any advice for students community?
Yeah, I think tokenizing real estate is like a way of thinking entrepreneurship. You have so many barriers, like technically speaking, legally speaking, and you need to overcome them one by one and go to the next level. And then at the end, you kind of manage to have something, but don't keep going. So for Equisafe here, we are hiring also any kind of talent. If you want to apply, we'd be ready and happy to welcome you.
Thank you. And maybe Jessica?
Yeah, I think that real estate is a great sector. I always have loved real estate, so it's really a great project to be involved in. Now the secret is the issue is to find the secret to have a proper tokenization of real estate in France, according to a model that is satisfying regarding legal, regulatory and tax standpoint. So it is a little bit difficult, but not impossible, as I have heard from from the conference, all the other speakers. So I think that this is really a field that will have a future, because investment in real estate is really has always been something for individuals, companies. They want to invest in real estate. And when, for example, I work for a sovereign wealth fund, foreign sovereign wealth fund, for the pension of their civil servant, they want to invest in real estate on a lot of countries. So I think that it is really something that will continue, but according to new ways. And I think, and I hope that the technology blockchain will be in the game in the future, in the coming years. Yeah.
What you said, what's more during crisis, actually, I think Jean-Marc and Frédéric and this guy will agree with me, is that during crisis, like real estate is a really good edge against inflation. And as you can say, like sometimes the crisis open a lot of opportunities also to invest.
Historically, the best hedge against inflation has been residential real estate.
Yeah.
Historically, period. Nothing has beaten residential real estate. I mean, I'm very American in my way of stating facts without, black and white and no gray. But the fact is that historically, it's true. It's all.
Well, maybe one last question from Alexandra Anderson. How will decisions will be made inside a building which was tokenized? So building renovation, concierge, recruitment. So maybe depending on what solution we're talking about, Equisafe, RealT, or Konkrete, you have a different answer. How you? I mean, if you want to start.
Yeah, you
we'll conclude with this question actually, because otherwise we'd be like limited.
You define simply the company that will manage the building and who will take the decisions. And as soon as you have a proxy company that will take the decisions, they are supposed to take decisions in the best interest of the investors. And if it requires more investment, you just do another round, another fundraising to renovate the building, in case. I see it my way, if you want to add in.
Definitely, like there's a manager appointed, which has like a year contract, and the idea is like at the end of the contract, you can say either you're satisfied with his actions or not, and vote can be done and choose if we maintain this real estate manager, or if we go for another. The idea is like the people who should make this decision are the one who are investing in the real estate. But not the day-to-day. I mean, the day-to-day has you don't have time, like you don't want to bother with like changing the robinet or whatever.
But that is a very strong question, though. Very strong, because what happens is this: we all agree that mostly true in residential real estate. That's what I know best, so that's why I can speak about that especially. The value proposition is made at the purchase of the asset, how well you purchased it, location and timing, and how well it's been managed. So management is crucial. Now, for sure, there are going to be property managers. They know their job, they do their job, they take care of all the day-to-day operations. Now, we come from the world of property management, so we know that really well. So we know how to take away some aspects from the property manager, because they tend to charge a lot for certain services. And you can create special groups that take care of that if you have a concentric circle of investments of properties. It's a way of doing it. But where it becomes important and where it becomes especially strong question is when you manage a fund, when you manage one company that has a lot of real estate, you can take risk and saying this property should be renovated. The actual yield is not good. It could be much better, but that implies not renewing the leases, killing the yield, killing it for a year, renovating it, and re-renting it again at a higher value. You can do that because during that time, the rest of the portfolio keeps giving you income. So you do have a yield, and actually the property that you renovate and on which you killed the yield represents only a small part. But when you're tokenized, when you do segregated management for each property, all of a sudden you have this property and you say, listen, really, I believe in my professional opinion that we should kill the yield, kick out the tenants and renovate it. Well, and I know in US, it's easier to not renew leases. So that's why I can give that example, but I'm sure it applies to everywhere. So all of a sudden the token holder can say, wait a second, I didn't buy that property for that. I bought it because there was a yield. All of a sudden my investment brings me zero. Zero for 2 years, for a year. What gives? And that's where it is important, I believe, to have a voting system where indeed the token holders together vote. And those that don't like the way the vote went should be able to liquidate their position. And that's where DAOs, in the broad term of the word, with a fully built-in ecosystem, will make such things possible.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much, the four of you, all of you, of the audience also, for this great discussion. It was amazing. Amazing knowledge, amazing insights for all the community, alumni, students, and well beyond. So thanks to you for again. We hope all this will give you more clarity for those also who were present today, but also those who will see the replay on our site, on our website, so www.blockchainhec.com. We will remind you that the next event will be on the 17th of November with Web3 VCs. Yeah, if you want to continue, Nancy.
Yes.
The conclusion.
And we're very excited to announce our big get-together in real life on December 8th at the HEC Alumni House. Very excited to see everyone actually physically, to discover the diversity of all our members and meet the rockstar speakers. So if you haven't done so, please follow us on LinkedIn or follow us on our website to stay tuned for all the upcoming events. You will have everything, all the links in the chat. So if you have any other questions or any feedback, please reach out to us at blockchain-hec@gmail.com. And lastly, we wish you a very, very nice evening. And I hope that we'll cross our path very soon. So thank you so much for the guest speakers and everyone who joined our conversation today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.